Hello, everybody. This is another segment of Politics at Home with Holmes. Politics never ends, apparently. And today we have our lovely guest, Dar Zuch. He is a person that we've met actually only recently within the year and only provides more and more information every time we meet him. He's very, very politically involved, especially in the field of education here in our local city of Calgary, which is a bit of a stereotype for us women. You know, women being involved in children's education, but we're interested, so we're gonna learn, and he's gonna school us. We're going back to school with Dar. So, Macy, why don't you ask the first questions for our lovely guest here?
Yeah, so this is going to be a bit of a learning journey for us as well because to give people some of our context, as our viewers already know, Madison and I are on a CA board, we're on the ABC board, and so like we've been apart and are trying to figure out how to progress in our political understanding of how to get involved, and so I actually have very little knowledge, very very tiny on how to get involved on a school-based level and like an educational level, but it's super important to me and Madison, so that's why we're really excited to have Dar on. So I guess the first question for you, Dar, is, well, I guess who are you and what's your story that kind of led you to wanting to run to be a school board trustee?
So my name's Dar Zuch. I'm a husband, father of three, 4-H club general leader here in Southeast Calgary, business owner, past president of Mackenzie Town Council in Southeast Calgary, community association members. So volunteering, being involved is really important to me. I think so much, even myself for so many years, it was work, work, work. And I was in early stage technology companies, but there's so much richness that comes from just digging in the curiosity and getting involved and meeting interesting people. And so I think everybody should do that. I grew up in Edmonton, and so I went through public school in the Edmonton Public School Board, got here in Calgary in 2008. And I got three kids. They're all in school here in Alberta. And I just, we want to do the best, want to figure out how to navigate this craziness that is the world in 25. I mean, it's on that tangent, and we got to have skills and know people and do it. And so I wanted to be involved in school, but just there's a lot going on, and for all of us, that K to 12 experience is what kicks us off and really defines our future. And so I was really interested in participating and getting involved in that.
Okay, so you have three kids. Now, you are running, if I'm not mistaken, for Public School Board of Trustees for here, wards 12 and 14. Now,
I am.
if I'm not mistaken, there are many different types of school boards here. I'm pretty sure there's Catholic school board. Why did you pick public out of all the options? Why is public school board? Are your kids in public? Is it a personal thing or your own experience when I need to fix this? Like, why public school board?
Yeah, well, for sure. So our school system here in Alberta comes out of our Constitution, the Alberta Constitution, also known as the Alberta Act of 1905. And at that time, we were as a province, we were quite religious. You were either Protestant or you were Catholic. That was the choice. There was nothing else. And so our school system being separate, the separate school system or the Catholic school system or public. Also, traditionally, our school system has been broken down into geographic jurisdictions. We have the Palliser School District, we have the Prairie Land Regional District, and of course we have the Calgary district formed as the Calgary Public School and the Calgary Board of Education, or CBE. So for me, if I want to be involved, my choices based on geography, where I'm allowed to run based on jurisdiction, is really either Catholic or the CBE, and I'm not Catholic, so
Okay.
that's my choice.
So now I'm curious. So what, I guess, like, because you were mentioning before we pressed to record that you've been involved in 4-H, and that you've also been learning about this Action Academy. So, like, have you been just recently deep diving into alternative ways to try and figure out educational alternatives, or has this been something that you've been doing for a while that helped lead you to want to get involved in education, or was it more of a I want to get involved and then you started learning about these different groups, and can you give us a bit of an idea of what these groups are and why it's important to you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a dad. Like most dads, we go to work in the morning. We work long hours. A lot of us work multiple jobs, and I'm the same way. In
Mm-hmm.
our house, mom takes care of everything kid related, especially at the ages they are right now. They're 8, 10, and 12 all
Oh.
have birthdays this summer, but they're still in the first part of their journey here, and so mom takes care of a lot of that. But as parents, we're like it's incredible how much the mindset and the worldview changes when you have kids. It's
Mm.
impossible to describe, and so I'm particularly interested in what's happening with my kids. My son bounces off the wall continuously. I don't know how to measure that, but I know he needs good people around him.
Mm.
He needs relationships around him, and so I started looking for stuff in the southeast here, and I know Boy Scouts are in the southeast. We just couldn't seem to get connected with Boy Scouts last year, and then I ran into 4-H and really by accident, and went to an information session, and there's nothing in the southeast here, and I said, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, then I guess I'm gonna do it. And so I started a club. It's in the southeast here, 4-H multi club, and it is awesome. Like I grew up urban, being in Edmonton.
Mm.
I didn't know anything about 4-H. I think as people growing up in Alberta, you hear about 4-H, you hear about chickens and the
Yeah.
horses and cows, and obviously, if I attempted to do that here in the city of Calgary, I'd get some bylaw officers out to see me pretty quick here. So that wasn't an option. But it's incredible, this program. It's been around for 100 years, 4-H. And we've got kids, we've got generations of kids that starting in about age 9, which is young. I don't know, what is that? That's like grade 3 or 4. They're responsible for gathering some money up,
Mm.
buying goats or cows or whatnot, and they have to raise them by themselves. They keep a record book daily
Wow.
of
That's amazing.
feed, how much feed this animal eats every day. They sometimes do in a group of 2 or 3 kids. They're required to do all the tracking, the financing of these animals. And then they take them through usually a year or 2 years, depending on the type of animal, and they raise them. And then they sell them and they take them to market. And then they can do the financial, the entrepreneurial stuff that comes after the animal's sold as well. And so the amount of skill and entrepreneurship and perseverance and having to get up and making sure these animals are vaccinated and trimmed. It's all the members, the kids that are doing these. The parents are like, we did this when we were your age. You're going to do this now. And so that's the type of expectation that 4-H has for the kids. You know, one of the things as a new 4-H leader, not knowing much about it this year, uh, I learned pretty late in the game that everybody's expected to do public speaking. And so we went and
Hmm.
toured other 4-H clubs as young as 6 years old. They're expected to go up and do public speaking in front of their club. And then they're marked and all sorts of things, judged and feedback given. Like, it's just incredible. And I thought, I want this. I want this for my kids. This is the kind of stuff where if they get passionate about it, they are definitely going to find success in their life. Those are the skills that are important. So anyways, 4-H, I love it. I'm a huge fan. And anyone that's looking for entrepreneurship and leadership and communication skills and all of it, 4-H is the place to be. 4hab.ca is the website.
Thank you. I was just about to ask because I've never heard of this 4-H thing. Is this a school or is this an external program?
Well, like I say, it's been around for 100 years. Like, this is something that happens in rural towns all across Alberta, all across the prairies. That's it. Yeah, since the province has been founded, practically, this is a thing. This is embedded into rural life across Canada. It's the way life goes. And I know in our club next year we're doing woodworking. It's not something that I think all schools have anymore. And so we're going to go and build things with power tools and saws and drills for the kids, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
We did a bike repair workshop this year. We're doing a canine training, so train your dog.
Wow.
Whatever. Oh, I got a couple of really awesome ones too. We might be doing beekeeping in the spring after Christmas.
Oh my God, can I come?
From the school, and you can raise urban bees here in the city of Calgary, which is amazing. We're also maybe a STEM project launching a satellite into space. We're still working out the details, but I mean, how awesome is that? As a grade 9, grade 10 student, we get together with some engineers, we put together some electronics, and then this thing gets launched into space and we see all the data coming from it. And I just think, wow, if I did electronics when I was in high school, but just the bragging rights on that, it's huge. And so 4-H does a lot of really, really cool stuff. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I had a friend from Innisfail, and she was doing 4-H as well. So, Maddie, to answer your question, it's not that it's necessarily like a separate from school, because she still had to do her high school diploma and such, but she was a part of 4-H's program, and she did all sorts of amazing things that she would talk about. And I'm not gonna lie, that's so cool, because I'm like, all the time in our households, we're like, you know what we wish that young kids would learn when they first start coming into the educational realm is how to do things like start your own fire, build the fire yourself, start it up, do bushwhacking things. Can you identify certain herbs, just stuff like that just feels like that's really practical and can help you for the rest of your life. It's that would be really cool too. And I guess my next question is is there any, so now that you're a part of 4-H and you said you have your own club that you're responsible for and you've kind of taken on yourself to promote, it's how does that work kind of play into your role, what it would look like for you if you became a school board trustee?
Yeah, how do they intertwine?
Because something I don't understand, and I want you to teach me, is when it comes to that, how does being a school board trustee work? What does the process look like? What are the responsibilities that you're allowed? And what's kind of your roles and duties? And then how is your passion, what's affiliated with 4-H, kind of going to help you, I guess, navigate that realm and your role and how you want to play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So we have school boards across Alberta. They've been there for forever. Some of them in our region here are like the Palliser School Division. We've got the Calgary Board of Education, another school board. We've got Prairie Land Regional District. So there's different school boards. I frankly don't know how many there are across the province. I'm focused here on Calgary, and within Calgary, the boundaries of Calgary, there is only the two of them, the Catholic and then the public, the Calgary Board of Education. And as a trustee, it's your residency, where you live is actually determined where you can go. So for instance, for me, I cannot participate in the Palliser school district. The position is part-time. There is a honorarium that gets delivered according to the legislation. So we're not employees of the school board or anything like that. It's a trustee position. The position also is a governance role, which means we provide some oversight as trustees. We do not get involved in the operational issues. We do get heavily involved in things like the finances and approving the budgets for the year and things like that, and debate some of the more serious issues that come before the trustees. Like any governance model, the board has one employee that they're responsible for, and that's the superintendent of the Calgary Board of Education. So everything beyond that moves through the Calgary Board of Education. There is no possibility in that model for someone like me to wander into a local school and make changes or tell them what they're doing or not doing. And quite frankly, for the size and complexity of an organization like the Calgary Board of Education, we've got so many great people in the organization, so many passionate people that are experienced. I mean, all of the teachers on the front line are certified. They have their Bachelor of Education. A lot of them have masters. Some of them have doctorates. And so there's a capable group that cares for the organization and the children in it. And the trustees themselves are set up to represent parents, to give some balance into the system. And so it's my role really to listen to the community, find out what the trends are, what the concerns are, and use that to balance out the organization from a governance standpoint. It's really a bit removed. It's certainly not full time, but I think the right people with the right characteristics can really move the needle and make it a better place. I know for myself, talking to parents in the community, literacy and numeracy are just huge. There's so many kids that struggle through elementary, through junior high, through high school, and they don't have the basics of digging into a book and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult to find a success in life. I mean, even you guys are so interested in history these days, and so much of that is buried into books and reports that are all written. If you don't have a love for learning and a love for reading, or you struggle to read, there's so much that we're restricted from. And so we have to get back to literacy and numeracy, those basic skills right across the board, where every kid comes out the other side with the capabilities. I know as a small business, a local business owner here, I'm constantly hiring people, and I need them to learn. Like, the technology we go through is changing every quarter, every month. And it's my expectation that they're out there picking up those new skills. They need to learn. If you don't read proficiently, work with numbers proficiently, your opportunities for success are dampened for your entire life. It's one of those many things that we need to focus on as a public school board.
Yeah, I follow you. And one of the things, I don't know if this necessarily counts as the philosophy behind school, because doing research, having gone through public school, I haven't done any universities or anything like that because of the increasing politics that have entered universities, of which I want to learn. I want nothing to do with the politics, but these days you can't really get one without the other. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it on my own. But for public school, you emphasized just there the basic skills. And those basic skills have been increasingly diminishing. Things reading and then your numeracy, like you said, have been going down. But I've only grown to believe that schools, especially if we're going to do something like a public school, should really be for basic skills. And then especially at young ages, because even things like history, philosophy, social studies, those don't, there's you look at statistics about how boys do in school when they're younger compared to girls, and then as they get older, it's like the reality. And this even goes for things like sexual education. I'm sure you've heard of the books that have been sneaking into our schools without parents' knowledge. There was a survey recently that the Alberta government put out revealing those books, because some parents that were concerned went, here, this is what they're showing our kids in school. And so just to
Yeah.
make people aware, and the whole question behind that was the question I'm kind of bringing up is, what counts as what's appropriate, when should you bring in sexual education for kids? And I've kind of the same principle I would take for sexual education as I'm starting to realize about even things like history. Kids don't actually follow that stuff till they're older. I wasn't interested in history till I was like 20. And that is a bit of a culture thing. Like, I know kids like Benjamin Franklin, who was running for politics.
They were
at
probably
14.
like reading novels upon novels at like age 12. Like,
Yes. So
Yeah.
we are definitely are in a different culture where, a kid that was 14 a couple decades ago can't do the same thing that, or can do more than kids can do today at 20. But I would don't, putting that aside, it's just a point of consideration. The point I'm looking at is that working with the kids we have nowadays, guys don't do well with most theoretical knowledge like that till they're a little bit older. And I think that 4-H club and that entity you've kind of brought, that summer camp, those skills is really what kids, and the basic skills, like you said, reading and then numeracy, those should be what school is largely about. As I'm trying to understand more how a kid grows up, literally knowing the mind and how the brain works as a kid develops. And
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit of a side tangent, but talking about education, that's where my brain goes, is like this big picture. I want to understand the logistics, which is what you're getting into, and I do want to hear. I know you have points about where your governance has been leading to, and where you're understanding. Okay, here are some of the logistical improvements we can make. I just figured while we're here, and because I know this is where my sister's brain go when it comes to education, do you have any thoughts on that? Or you're like, honestly, I'm kind of keeping my hands off because it's a bit too much.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming, and for so many parents as well. I grew up in the Edmonton public school system. My parents were immigrants, and they just said, "Oh, okay, well, this is Canada. This is where we're going to put our kids." And uh, that's a good choice. And for parents, it's just so overwhelming. Okay, I've got kids now. I got to feed them. I got to take care of them. It's such a radical change from life before kids. And so, in most cases, this is the easy path. We got so many things that we're dealing with, bills and everything else. It's just the easy way to go,
Right.
and in a lot of cases, it's a good way to go. It's been a debate in Alberta forever. Social credit was around till the end of the 60s. I think 1971, the Progressive Conservatives came into power, and they were around for a long time. We've had a lot of choice in our education system here in Alberta. Very different than other jurisdictions across Canada, the other provinces. Very different than the U.S. as well in many cases. And independent schools have been there in the 60s and 70s. There were Hebrew schools that were separate and taught the traditions of their people. These days, there's a lot of Muslim schools that teach the traditions that are important to their families. And that's the diversity that we have in Alberta and that we embrace. From a school standpoint, a public school standpoint, practically all schools, regardless of the school board or how they run, are funded with public monies from the government. And so you get full funding when you're a CBE or a Catholic school board type. There's a class of schools called independent schools here in Alberta. They get about 70% of the funding that a public school is. And part of that is, if you're passionate about the culture that your family embraces, you're passionate about different thoughts, well, then you should put a little bit of additional effort in. When it comes to independent schools, 80% of parents of families that put their kids in independent schools make less than the average income of our population. So it's not that they're richer people. They're just saying this is so important. I want to take a different view. It saddens me, actually, quite frankly, that we have so many independent schools and not within the CBE, because it's my feeling that we should be embracing those things. But it's been the journey of our school system over the last 50, 60, 100 years that have demanded that these schools are broken out to give more liberty and freedom in what they talk. You were talking about kids and not having a love for history. I got to tell you, there is this thing, charter schools brought in by the Klein government. It was really something that they saw in California and a lot of different jurisdictions across the U.S. And one of the things they wanted to try in 1988 was this charter school. Limited in scope. It's a charter school because it's based on the charter that gets submitted to the Minister of Education. There's a limited number of them that can occur. They cannot have any religious focus at all. So they can't be, they have to focus on other things. Anyways, one of the schools, one of the many charter schools here in Alberta is called the Classical Academy. I actually don't know that much about it, but they teach Latin starting early in the early grades, Latin and Greek and philosophy and so it's not something that gets taught. Maybe it gets taught in IB programs at the CBE, but there's parents that are like, yeah, that is hugely important. If you want to understand logic and critical thinking and a study of the masters, learning the ancient language is important. It's not for everybody, but that's the diversity that our Alberta school system embraces. We have other charter schools as well. There's a lot of the independent schools. There's about 363 of them in the province of Alberta. They get 70% of the funding. And there is just broad choice, parental choice here. And I think it's important. Again, it saddens me that as a Calgary Board of Education over the last 40 years, we haven't embraced that. And quite frankly, you look back at some of the decisions that happened in the early 80s. One of the reasons we've moved in this direction as a school board is because there were independent schools that had their own methodology, their own focus. And in the early 80s, there were these parents that got together, built schools, put their kids in, put that blood, sweat, and tear into forming them, had them running for a couple years under an umbrella policy of the provincial government under CBE. And the trustee boards of that time just said, too much debate from people that don't support your school and the public, so we're canceling your contracts, and you're going to have to join us and toss out all your curricula. And it's happened a lot over the decades. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that diversity just hasn't been embraced, and so we have this proliferation of other schools. It saddens me that it's happened, but we need more funding for teachers at the CBE. Their lives are incredibly stressful. We've got really high turnover. There's a reason that teachers are speaking out right now about having more support. They really need it at CBE schools, and I'm sure there's solutions there. This is not a question you asked, but as part of my rambling, we've got classrooms at the CBE that have about 30 kids in them. That's generally the accepted average for a number of kids. And the Alberta government funds a classroom like that without any additional learning grants or anything else. The operational costs are $340,000 a year to manage a classroom of 30 kids. And for anyone that has a business background, a financial background, understands that the majority of your cost, your operational cost in any business is that of HR. It's the people there. Teachers earn between $65,000 and $85,000 a year in general. And so classroom of 30 kids has a accredited teacher. They have EAs. They have additional grants for learning disabilities as well. But it's incredible that we do not get more funding down to the classroom. Some people estimate that out of all the funding that comes from the federal or the provincial government, only 25% of that goes into the classroom. Some people say it's 60 to 70%. But the question continues is why do we not see more funds in the classrooms? Because it's needed. It's desperately needed. If you look at independent schools as a contrast, there's a lot more funding, even though they receive not the 100%, but only 70% of what public schools or the CBE traditional schools get. There's more money going into classrooms with independent schools than there are money going into the traditional CBE schools. And it needs to change. That's a governance issue, though. That's something where trustees can get involved and say, there are changes. We have to investigate these.
Yeah,
We have to
have you
approve
looked
budgets
into it yet?
different.
Like, do you know why that is there money laundering going on, or like Sorry, I had to make the joke.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. I think it's, I could be wrong here, $1.62 billion is what goes into Calgary Board of Educational Schools on an annual basis for operational funds. So it's a lot of money. It's an organization that has a history going back over 100 years. And so there's a lot of tradition that goes with the spending. We've got a significant number of certified teachers that never see a classroom. They're strictly administrative. And so that's an issue. You know, talking to some of the independent schools, the top administrators in the independent schools get capped. There's a maximum of about $210,000, I think, is the maximum income that an independent school administrator can take as a salary. Most of them are drastically lower than that. I think the highest paid independent school administrators somewhere around $130,000. That's more the mean average of things. And yet at places like the CBE, you know, a lot more responsibility for sure, but their salaries are $400,000 to $500,000 a year, and so we need to hire the best. It's a big system, but there's an awful lot of people taking an awful lot of big salaries. But it's not just salaries, right? Like we don't want to be touching people's salaries. There's a lot of funding programs that people have always the system has always invested in that might not be relevant anymore and need to be evaluated. Ultimately, the measuring line should be How does this impact a student in a seat in a classroom? If we fund the program, does that help students learn and grow immediately? Specialized programs need funding, and
Mm-hmm.
if they show an impact on kids reaching their success, then absolutely money goes there. But if it's a political program or political idea, someone's pet project, it's not going to affect kids immediately in the classroom, those programs should not get funding. We need to get more of that funding into the classrooms, in the hands of our professional teachers. They know what to do with it. They know how to make judgment calls about what's best for their kids, and we have to stop losing this money in between. It's incredible.
Is that something you're hoping to do and to investigate if you were to get elected? Is that something you're like, I've been able to go so far, but because I'm not actually in the trustee position, I can't look at all of the governance that's going on, and therefore I can't start investigating what the solutions are? Is that what your kind of game plan is, or?
Yeah, I mean it's a huge organization. Again, $1.62 billion is a annual operating. It's more than that. That number's I think 7 years old right now. That 1.62. So it's higher than that. The number of staff is in the tens of thousands at CBE. So there's an awful lot of people. It's not an organization that turns on a dime. It does take time. It takes curiosity, tenacious investigation. But more than that, there are people, passionate people in all the nooks and crannies of the Calgary Board of Education that have ideas, that know how to fix these problems, know what the problems are. And I think in many places, they just need a voice. They need the opportunity to try some things. And even within the governance role, I think I found that in governance roles I've had in the past, there is some opportunity to just say, well, why don't we try what these people are saying? Let's give some effort and try and do some good things here. If this guy's got an idea, if this lady's got an idea, let's give them a little bit of opportunity to try their ideas, see how we can impact kids. Let's get kids to be passionate about learning, finding out what's happening in the world around them.
Mm.
Launching satellites into space. I mean, it's just so much. We live in such a rich environment here in Alberta. It's one of the best places. It is the best place in the world to be. And the school system, I think, is second to none of anywhere in the world. We've got just an amazing school system with the diversity of choice and passionate people. I often talk to people in a business sense, and I say, here in Alberta, we've got the well. Can I tell you a quick story here?
Mm.
So I was on this journey back in 2021 again, and I was doing research and Googling around. I came across this news story about a kid in grade 10,
Mm.
and he launched a satellite into space with his friends. I thought that's kind of crazy. I was doing electronics when I was in grade 10, but launching a satellite into space, like that's Elon Musk kind of stuff. That's pretty insane. That's definitely clickbait. That's not real. And so I tossed it away. I didn't look at it. A couple of weeks later, I thought, I need to look into it a little bit more. So I went searching. I couldn't find the article. Couldn't find this kid in Denmark that did this. But what I found is that grade 10 students in the Philippines, in Japan, in Korea, in Indonesia, in South Africa, in Egypt, in Chile, in Argentina, down in Houston, all around the world, there are kids in grade 10 launching satellites into space. I thought, well, that's pretty incredible. And so I wandered around for about a year talking to business people and telling them launching satellites into space. And inevitably, all of them, their eyes glazed over.
Uh,
Yeah, it's so incredible here in Alberta, here in Calgary, particularly, where we have the best pipeline engineers in the world, where we had the engineering headquarters of Nortel, the people that made the best phone systems in the world for decades, and wireless technology and smart technology. It's just so much innovation that have come out of Calgary in the last 30 years, and yet for some reason we don't have that expectation of our kids. We can't seem to envision them being able to launch satellites in the space and do these other things. And so there's a transition. We have to promote the successes that are happening in CBE much better. We have to help our kids find the next stepping stone into the private industries of our city. Apprenticeships. And I know some of that's happening right now. We've got great programs like the RAP program that helps transition kids into employment success, but we have to do a lot much more of that because there are opportunities. You look at places like Dubai, where over the last 40 years it started from just some place in the desert, and it turned into just this this one of the fanciest places on earth. We have the education system, we have the resources, we have the kids where if they have those dreams in their heart, they can find that here in Alberta. And our public school systems are the ones that should be helping to focus them on that success. And so yeah.
You said that before we started recording, that kind of your job is to find all the people in the nooks and crannies that you have been saying. There's good people, there's passionate people, there's good projects like the 4-H, and your job is to find them and then basically tell people that, hey, this is a thing, which I appreciate that resonates, because it, like you said, there's a lot, and there's a lot in the school systems, and in Alberta with the diversity, kids get utterly lost in where to go. It's like you generally have to get a job, but people teach you, okay, college, university, but then even the programs that can help you get there, like apprenticeship programs, which apprenticing is, even the 4-H is kind of doing that. These people they're telling you how to start these really cool practical life skill projects, and that's really what little apprentices are. They're just starting much younger. And finding those programs and making people aware of that, because so many people, like you said, because they're bogged down in society trying to meet the bottom line, they just go, okay, there's daycare, there's school, go. And hopefully you learn. And then they don't know all of the other opportunities because they don't have the time to look into it, because they can't even, like you said, they're working multiple jobs, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and like if the kids were able to actually learn things that are practical, but also that would impassion them to want to innovate, to want to contribute, to actually feel like, oh my gosh, like, why is energy so important? Why is economics so important? Why is history so important? And then if they have that embedded in their values and their structure, it makes them want to contribute to where it is that they live, right? It's like, why care about Alberta? Like, why should they, right? And that's the whole point, is we're trying to make them understand, why care about your community and your society at all, right? And because if we had that, then even the problem that even parents face, unfortunately, where it's like you got mom and pa got to work like 2 jobs in order to sustain, and they're trying to lift their children up, like they're literally trying to prop them. It's like, well, if we were just raising a better society of our next generation, well, then they might not have to face that same problem where they have to meet bottom line and have to face the same problem that their parents are going through right now. It's like they could be solving the problems downstream that could give us more time to be the lifelong learners that we want to be, because human beings, we like learning things. Actually, when you just have when we're not in survival mode, we're in creative mode, like really truly, because we look around and we're like, oh my gosh, like we could do this, we could do that, it's like stuff like that. And I just feel like that's what I wish that we were trying to push towards more.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree on that. We need to have the foundations. foundations for lifelong learning are learned during our public school years, K to 12
Mm.
years, and figuring out how to navigate a library, figuring out how to find the information on the internet, how to create things, how to do a podcast, right? Like all of this stuff. But it's even if you know how to do the podcast, the skills to carry it on and
Mm-hmm.
do it regularly, because there's so much more than just turning on your laptop and pressing record on the screen. Just even finding the people to talk to and starting those conversations. So many skills. And the Calgary Board of Education, they're limited in scope for sure. We have the curriculum that defines what that scope is. Education is so much broader in that. And so we need to also, at the same time, invest in organizations like 4-H, like Boy Scouts, like
Mm.
Girl Guides. There's so many other programs, all the various sports programs that teach leadership to kids. Those are all a part of this educational journey
Mm-hmm.
that we as Albertans are on. So,
I have like a two-part question then for you, which is
Mhm.
like, so when you say we need to invest more into those other programs, do you think that it's like you're saying that the Calgary Board of Education, you wish that they were investing into more of those programs? Oh, and then the second part question is, if you were on the board of trustees and you mentioned that it's like there might be a man or a woman that have ideas, and that your job is to help, maybe if you can, see them come into fruition, so that way we can test and actually see if it's helping the kids in any way, or if it's just like you said, a pet project. And my question embedded in that one as well is like, do you get the chance to figure out what the metric is of success? Like, do you get to actually see if it's actually measurably working? And if so, do you get to scrutinize also the metric of how they're measuring it as well? Because if we already know that schools can get co-opted in some part to push agendas, even what was going on with the whole school,
Mhm.
like what they're putting in school libraries, right? It's like numbers can get augmented to show, well, look, it's helping the children, right? But it could be completely bogus, right? So I'm just wondering, is there a way that you feel like you'll be able to play a role in that if you get to be on the trustee? And then the other question was, do you feel that you want the CBE to be the one investing into things like 4-H and such?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're both good questions. I think the CBE has a mandate, and it's defined by curriculum. It's defined by legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to take the public funds that are entrusted to us by the Alberta government and be good stewards of those. And that
Mm-hmm.
means putting them towards what our mandate as a public school board is. So there is, I don't think, I expect that's happening to some degree right now. I don't think it's appropriate that we spend public funds on secondary or tertiary outcomes that are outside of our scope. That money needs to go into the classrooms. It needs to fund learning activities at the edge, which not enough of it is. That being said, there are other areas that CBE can do without substantially taking away from its core mandate. The CBE is trusted into huge real estate reserves in the course of school buildings, robotic, and other specialized equipment in their classrooms. A lot of that is largely used between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 to 4 p.m. And there's after school programs and things like that. But the utilization of our public schools is, I think, a lot less than it should be in terms of the classrooms and the spaces. I was looking at doing a job fair for youth in our
Mm-hmm.
southeast communities here
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year, and we were looking for space. We looked at community centers. We looked at commercial hotels and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up going to the Calgary Public School. It's a lot of effort to do any of these things, to put in a job fair, to get the
Mm-hmm.
people going, to take money out of your own pocket to do this. And that's why a lot of people don't do it. And I think some of those barriers to entry can be lowered, whether you want to have a sports camp for kids or a job fair or whatever it is. There's a lot of barriers to entry, and that's why we don't see as much as them anymore. When I did that with approach the Calgary Board of Education, the first thing is it's going to take at least 30 days, if not 60 days, to organize the space before I get an approval. But if I'm planning this stuff out, it's just too much risk to go to the CBE building and say, I have to wait. I don't get any feedback. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if I'm going to get the space or so there's things like that I think can easily changed. If we have community learning programs, and it might be for kids, it might be for adults, but something where the cost, this is an asset that our public government has, our provincial governments have paid for, that have been entrusted to the CBE. There's so many of those things that maybe there is an opportunity. Now, again, as just as a normal Albertan, I don't know the intricacies of all this. And so I can ask questions as if I were a trustee. I could find people that might be passionate, that have ideas, and they would have better ideas. They'd be able to tell me why or why not these things can be done, and then we can work forward. And I think that's the role of any a board member is there is a governance, but let's ask questions, let's talk to people, let's find out where we can make changes and see if we can drive changes. And in terms of the second question there, in regards to some of the metrics are an incredibly difficult thing within public organizations because, as you know, the saying goes that you can easily lie with statistics. And until you see the data, until you, one of the things I learned this last year in regards to municipal politics is I was told that as a business owner with the Canadian Revenue Agency, we are expected to maintain our books, file taxes, declare things as expenses in certain ways. And all of us, private individuals, are required to do that. That is not so of public bodies. In fact, when it comes to municipalities across Alberta, the reporting standards for how expenses are reported are certainly not, it has nowhere near the rigor that was within public bodies with the CRA. And they also is no standard, so you can compare one municipality against another municipality. And I think that degree of rigor is also lacking within school boards as well. And so the information is not clear. I've heard that the financials for individual schools is there's a lot of reading in between the lines. And so some of those basics need to be put in place. That's against a governance activity that a trustee needs to take on that says this is how our financial reporting is going to look at a school level, because I don't believe the numbers are there right now for us to ask those questions and get the real answers. The hard work of starting to walk some of those systems forward is our priorities. Transparency with our parents or school councils, with the public, is also important. There shouldn't be privacy, in my opinion, to say for my local school, if I belong to the school council, right now you're not allowed to look at the financials of the school. I think you probably should. I mean, it's public money. We're not breaking down the individual salaries of teachers or anything else. But in blocks, as top level summary, we absolutely should see that. And I don't believe that's available or possible to even ask for today. So yes. So the question is, yes, we need to work through those stats and those measurements. I don't think it's possible to do that in any significant way today, and for them to be trusted.
That makes sense. That's a similar problem we're facing with the health services. Again, it's like you want to look into it and it's just this black box and you're like, okay, where do I start? So I hear you. And there's definitely, that's kind of, like you said, these are institutions and organizations that have been around for a long time. So they've been thrown in many different political directions. So you get different people running over the years. And then when you get so much paperwork style, stacked up on your desk, then it's suddenly you got this big dragon to slay. So I appreciate you acknowledging the reality that you have a task in front of you, but you seem more than willing and optimistic in digging into that via just conversations, connections with people, and you really seem, and Macy emphasizes this all the time in our conversations, just the capability that people really do have to solve problems. And you have this whole conversation you've been talking about, there are people out there with zeal and with good education, hard work, and you just have to connect some right dots and do the digging, and then there will people that will solve the problems, is kind of what I'm hearing, which is a nice thing to hear as somebody who's a very big skeptic of the system, for the same reasons that I would be of the health system, just because there's so many unknowns. There very well could be laundering. No, I'm kidding.
My biggest thing is, like Maddie, as she said, we're skeptical of the school system, and we are skeptical of anything that's a large entity that says that this is going to be happening for the majority, especially when it comes to education and kids. It's like, of course I'm skeptical, because you want the best results. So you really do want to see something that's going to actually transpire. That, again, as I was mentioning, doesn't have it, where you can't have the ability to pursue more education to make things better because you're trying to just survive. It's like the question is how did we get there in the first place? Like, clearly something's not right. And so, like me and Maddie, lots of our viewers already know that we're the type where, like, we would just homeschool. Like, at that point, we're just like, that's where we would prefer to go. But what I liked, and I never actually considered, is that, okay, so we got a large problem that can occur and has occurred in what is public school, but also just like what's going on in general across schools. And so it's like, well, how do you tackle such a big beast like that? And I like the fact that you mentioned that it's like, we need to make sure that we know where the money is flowing. Yeah. So that way schools are being able to provide the opportunity for what it is that they need. But then once they have that, they need a surplus. So that way they can feel the need that they can actually invest into things like job fairs. Like, I like how you mentioned that, because it's like, then that gives more of that option and that we are looking for. It's like, what can we use as well to give kids an option for something that can inspire them? Because not, as you said, not everybody's going to be like all feeling a taste for Latin and learning that, right? But it's there, and that's kind of the whole point. It's like, but that would be something that would be nice to be able to invest in on the side with what's going on in the curriculum. Because I'm going to be honest, it's like, when it comes to what I was learning back in school, and like maybe chemistry class or biology or just the physics or mathematics, it's like, yes, it's nice that I learned those things, but it's like, I don't know anything about how to financially like take care of myself. It's like, we don't learn those things, right? Or kids these days with all the anxiety disorders, and so you just got to get on pills that are, you don't know what side effects they're going to have in the long term. It's like they're not taught about the medical system. They're not taught about their own minds and their bodies. Like, these are just things that I'm like, these should be basics before we're even getting down the maths and the sciences. And even when we do, it's like, are we just memorizing all of the different parts in the ear just for a test and then that's it? Like, or are we actually, or a mathematical equation? It's like, here's like a squared equals b squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's like, well, why? Like, did anybody actually figure out the discovery as to how someone came up with that? Like, where did that come from? I don't know. Like, so I'm just like, I just wish that, like, when it came to our curriculum, of course, that's a whole other tangent, but I like the fact that you're like, okay, so if we want to really try and figure out where we can have an impact, it's figuring out, okay, how do we kind of enmesh ourselves enough on a base level to try and figure out how to give schools an opportunity to give more. Like, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, you've expressed that is your basic goal throughout this entire conversation, which is definitely encouraging. And if there's any, where can people go to if they have questions for you, further questions? I definitely know I have further questions. But if they want to support you or figure out, okay, what's my ward, so they can, hop on board and vote for you,
Or vote for their own trustees
vote
that
for
are
their
trying to
own
run.
trustees. Yeah. What's your takeaway, and how can people follow up with you?
Yeah, well, I think number one is get out to vote. I think a school board trustee position is more important than more than a municipal councillor, more important than your provincial MLA, because you're impacting what is happening with our kids, the next 100 years of our province here. And so it's important. Most people look at it and say, well, I don't have kids. I don't intend to ever have kids. I'm a grandparent. My kids are growing up. But, ultimately what it comes down to is this is the opportunity to pay it forward. We've all been through public education. We've all been through K to 12 education. Whether you've immigrated here or migrated from another province, K to 12 education is practically universal now. And so this is the opportunity to find out how we can pay it forward to the next generation, make sure that they have the same opportunities that we did growing up, and that they've advanced, that they're better opportunities that we have. So it's critical. And there is a responsibility to vote for a public school board trustee, because you were there once, and we need to pay it forward to those coming up behind us. My website is www.darzuch, DARZUCH, fortrustee.com. I've got contact information there. I need help. If you're in Southeast Calgary or you want to help me in your different area of the city, definitely. We got to get out the doors and meet people and hear from them. And that's a lot of effort between now and October 20th, when the election is. So really appreciate any extra hands and help to help get me across the finish line and see some changes, make a real difference for the kids that are coming up behind us.
I like that you emphasized the other ways to help, because Keener did the same thing. It takes more than just, some people aren't physically able to go and do the door knocking, so donating is their thing. They got the pockets. But if you are physically capable, then, getting out and even, I see you have Get a Lawn sign on that beautiful website of yours. So we're going to grab a lawn sign, and then if the other people get some, we can put them on your door. If you just send an email, I'm sure Dar's got volunteers, we can help volunteer, that we can put those lawn signs out, because that's what other municipal people have done. That same with on the provincial level. So there's we need bodies on the floor just as much as it takes a body to go and vote. So we need physical bodies out there, not just the money, though the money I'm sure is also helpful.
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Macy, do you want to close it off? This has been over an hour conversation.
Wow.
Maybe an hour, including the...
I kind of figured. I was like, we're about to get schooled.
Yeah. We literally went back to school.
Yep.
A lot to know. And
yes.
I don't know it all. It's
yes.
it's the people in the system that are capable and smart and passionate, and they're the ones that have answers too.
Well, and that's why you're trying to get into the system, so you can get more answers, which we need. We need people with more answers. That way we'll have you back on in the future, and then you'll be able to tell us even more that you've learned, and even more problems, and then more solutions, and we'll get a nice follow-up. But this has been a very educational conversation on education. So thank you for joining us. But thank you also for putting your time into this, because I know being involved in politics that it takes a lot of courage and openness to run and to ask questions. Like you said, there are a lot of questions to be answered, and feeling comfortable enough to get into that. So I get you have kids, but like you said, some people don't have kids, and even those who do, some people haven't the time, or they haven't the right they're too busy in survival mode and haven't taken on the responsibility to go and put themselves in a position that you currently are in. So I hope people look at you as an example about how to embody that openness and that care for the future, as if, your future kids or past ancestors, their eyes are looking at you and they're saying, help me out. And you're definitely embodying that.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate that you guys are doing these podcasts as well. I know the topics you guys jump into are difficult and messy, and there's a lot of courage that goes around with that. So thank you for doing that.
Aw, thank you. Okay, well then we can end it off by saying thank you guys so much for watching Politics at Home with Holmes. We really, really appreciated this conversation, and we will be definitely doing a follow-up in the future. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
So see you everyone.